Hi, Tom and Brian. Allison Sheridan of the NosillaCast here. I have a question for you guys. Why did the TV people hate us so much? I mean, really. Steve and I, between us, have, 12 years of engineering education between us. And
Wait,
it took
Tom,
us over
let's
an
answer
hour
this
to figure out
question
how to
right
take
now.
Sherlock.
Wait,
Let's
what?
just go.
Go, go.
Go.
Ladies, gentlemen, and undetermined, welcome to Cordkillers. Our mission, which we have chosen to accept, is to give you the information you need to be able to watch what you want, where you want, on any damn device you choose. I'm Tom Merritt.
Hey, man, I am customer service oriented Brian Brushwood. When we get a rant like this, before the question even gets asked, I say, let's just book that person on the show, have her be a guest, and hear what's so difficult and why do televisions hate us. What's the story, Allison?
I don't understand why it's so hard to watch television these days. So Steve and I wanted to watch Sherlock. We heard it came out. We thought, oh, it'd be great. So I go into TiVo and I search for Sherlock, and it's not there. Well, I guess I could VPN tunnel over to England or something like that, but I didn't want to do that. And then I saw an IMDb post that showed that Cumberbatch was signing autographs in Los Angeles. So that must mean it's here, right? So I searched TiVo again. No joy. And then I thought, okay, well, they said it was on PBS. So now I don't know what the hell channel PBS is, right? So I go for a search. I have to log into Verizon to find out what channels are PBS. It turns out there's 5 of them. All right, so I took a guess. I said, well, maybe it's KOCE. So on TiVo, we went to KOCE and we searched by a half hour at a time, clicking next hour, until we got to the right time when it should be showing. But it didn't say Sherlock. It said Masterpiece Mystery. What's that? So we clicked on Masterpiece Mystery and it was Sherlock. So
I don't see what the problem is. That just sounds like, it sounds super simple. All of this was done because culturally, you can't handle knowing. I don't have an ex. I can't even pretend. Tom, what say you?
Well, no, I think what Brian's trying to say is you're doing it wrong. What you're supposed to do is stop searching for things. I mean, this idea of watching what you want when you want on your. I mean, come on. That's selfish. And probably stealing somehow, and you should just sit back and leave the TV on.
You know what? It seems like maybe a way to fix this would be if, for example, maybe a major media company were to start having talks with a major supplier of cable television, so that they could design like a new box to make this all work.
That's never going to happen, Brian.
That's a ridiculous idea. In fact, let's just forget about that and do our primary target story.
I agree.
Our primary target story today involves a major corporation working with a technology. Oh my God, Brian!
Yeah, man. It's now.
What wizardry is this?
I don't know how excited to be about this. If you guys haven't heard, if you're sitting under a rock, a billion people sent us a Wall Street Journal article talking about the fact that Apple and Comcast were in talks for streaming television, and I assume this would be a new device. This is the fabled Apple TV, Tom, of the future.
Yeah, I mean, okay. First of all, Wall Street Journal says they have sources that say Comcast and Apple are having talks about doing a service, and this service would be something that allows both live and on-demand programming to be delivered through Comcast network to some kind of device from Apple. And that, here's the kicker, both sides are very far apart from a deal.
Yeah, so at this point, all the only news that we have that's exciting is that people are arguing in back rooms somewhere, trying to wrestle control over something.
I think what may have happened is an old story that had all of these same facts but said Time Warner Cable got caught in some kind of find and replace in Wall Street Journal, where they were just replacing the name Time Warner Cable with Comcast in anticipation of their upcoming merger. And then this accidentally got published as new.
So you think that this isn't really even news? You think that this is all just nonsense chatter?
Well, okay. No, I actually think there might be something going on here, but it is not very solid, right? We've heard this dance before. That's all I'm saying. Apple and Time Warner Cable. I was told on good authority from people who knew that Apple and Time Warner Cable were in talks and they were going to make this happen, and it never happened. And that's what's going on here is and I got an email from a little birdie who's like, you know what? I've been talking to people who know, and they've been telling me that this is going to happen too. But until it actually happens, it's going to probably fall apart, is my guess.
Yeah, and it seems like the biggest difficulty is between the way Apple wants to manage the. They want everyone to have to log in through their Apple ID, and they want to be able to manage all of the search data and be able to market and all those things. And meanwhile, Comcast are saying like, "I'm sorry, we're Comcast. Did you not see how we roll?" Who has the bigger muscle here? Because Apple, of course, has the technology and the interface and the pleasing experience that everybody wants, whereas Comcast has the agreements and the licenses, and they can hold that over. Allison, in this showdown, who do you think is going to come out ahead?
Yeah, Comcast or wait, is it Comcast or Time Warner? I keep getting confused.
Well, this one's Comcast.
Okay. So I would think Comcast probably will come out the winner, and then the deal will fall apart because Apple will fold their cards. But the thing I thought was kind of interesting about this wasn't this one the one where they were going to actually be on Time Warner servers? So they were going to be doing that last mile delivery, so we wouldn't get these nasty chokes that, I don't know if you've seen it, but where you're watching an iTunes movie and all of a sudden it says, okay, I'm going to be ready to play that in 12 hours or 4 days or something like that, and you have to reset everything.
Yeah, this Comcast deal is the same thing. They would have servers based inside Comcast network. They would deliver them directly to Comcast subscribers as a special managed service so that they don't have to play by any net neutrality rules. It's the same thing that they do for the Xbox 360. They deliver some on-demand content to the Xbox 360 that way, and it doesn't count against your bandwidth cap because their argument is this is all inside of our network. We're not, even though it's really going down the same lines, it's no different than a phone call or the television service we already provide because it doesn't go out on the internet.
So as much as I want that choke point to disappear, we don't really want that, right?
I have a feeling there are bigger concerns. I know that a lot of people want to jump, and we talked about this on Daily Tech News Show, a lot of people want to jump right into the net neutrality implications of this. First of all, Comcast has to abide by the open internet guidelines, even though they were thrown out in court, because Comcast agreed to abide by them anyway as a condition for acquiring NBC Universal. So they have to play by those rules till 2018. I think what's going on here, John Brodkin from Ars Technica said, it seems like someone from Comcast leaked this out as a trial balloon to see what the reaction would be of Comcast's argument that this doesn't violate the open internet guidelines.
So, and this is difficult because I almost think that maybe they're right, because essentially what they're doing, yes, it does happen to use IP technology, but essentially what they're doing is instead of streaming all this data on a dumb copper pipe to a antiquated 1990s style DVR with a horrific interface, they're essentially just updating everything using a different protocol that happens to be the same protocol that's used to transfer data on the internet. Then in which case, yeah, I would be mad if they did count it against your... Well, which would be the greater crime? Either not is it bad that they're not counting it against your data cap, or would it be bad if they did count it against your data cap, considering it never left the internal network?
Well, lots of things never leave the internal network, though, right? It's all a matter of semantics and a matter of leverage. And really, if this, and we don't know how this is going to end up playing out. That's one of the problems in evaluating it. But if this were to be true, and if this were released as something where only people who subscribe to Comcast Internet could get it, then it isn't any different than buying a cable service and getting a DVR from Comcast, except that it might be better because Apple's making the hardware. Otherwise, it's not helping anybody be free. You can't switch your internet service and still get it. So It's actually more restrictive than current Comcast cable.
Well, and I guess also, now that's an interesting thing. Like, weirdly, the whole net neutrality issue only comes into play if this device is available to anything outside of Comcast. Because if it's only Comcast only, then it's exactly the same as your DVR box, just using a different method to distribute the data. But if it's available to everyone, and then Time Warner, like, hey, man, that's not fair. Time Warner applies it against my cap, but Comcast doesn't. Or I guess, wait, Comcast and Time Warner are making out together, aren't they? That's not the best differentiation. But the point is that weirdly, it only gets complicated and becomes a problem when it becomes available to everyone.
So, Allison, now that we've kind of wrapped our heads around this idea, is it something you even want? I mean, Here's the positive way of describing this is, hey, instead of dealing with those old clunky, crappy cable DVR boxes, you can have a great Apple experience with your Apple TV and still get Netflix and Hulu Plus, but also get all your cable channels. Isn't that great? The downside to this is, hey, guess what? If you want to get Comcast cable and have this great interface, you're going to be stuck on Comcast internet.
See, I think you made a jump that I didn't make in reading the articles, which was that they would replace that crappy DVR box with the Apple TV. I thought this was just, and you could get an Apple TV.
I mean, I would think that's clearly the appeal to this. This is the one thing that we're not so in love with our Apple TVs. We're so in hate with our DVRs is what it is.
I didn't catch that they were actually talking about replacing that. That does make it a little more interesting.
Well, we don't really know what they're doing, but the Wall Street Journal article supposes that their sources are saying Apple TV would provide an app that you would be able to access live and on-demand channels from Comcast. So you wouldn't need the DVR anymore at that point.
Huh. I'd still want a DVR.
Well, I mean...
Oh, but I'm wanting to watch what I want when I want, though. I'm sorry. We already talked
let's say that the on-demand part of this is robust enough and included enough that you don't have to set a season pass for anything anymore. It's all there.
Right. And it's all like retroactively there, or it's like
jump. That's a jump. But I'm just saying.
Aren't you
plus,
adorable,
also,
Tom?
no, I do think that Apple's going to be really good to say, hey, we notice to give a Netflix quality experience where it's like, hey, we notice you like XX and this other show's on. A lot of your friends seem to like it. I'm going to go ahead and record it, and if you want to watch it, then you have it available. So this sort of like always on pervasive DVR. I mean, I wouldn't put it past Apple at all. It seems like they would be able to do that. And your problem with Sherlock, when you type in the word Sherlock, the system would be smart enough to say, well, Sherlock is actually it's on Masterpiece Theater.
It may be called Masterpiece Mystery, but one of the primary search keywords is Sherlock. So because we're actually a search engine, we'll surface that for you. Yeah,
exactly. I think that in every way, this deal, if it went through, would fix your experience. But the question is, do you want it to go through? Do you even want to see Comcast partnering up and giving a better cable experience, or do you want to set fire to the whole way that cable's done, period?
I think that it would be of great benefit to a lot of people, but to a lot of people who don't realize that they have a crappy DVR. I have a lot of friends who are like, oh, yeah, why would you pay for TiVo? Because this one's just fine. Look, it's free. And I don't think they even understand how bad it is because they haven't seen it done well.
I give them more credit than you do. I think that it's
your friends are smarter than mine.
I think it's an expense thing on their part. They have an obligation to hit a basic minimum level of service, and then beyond that, they see diminishing returns on bothering to make things good.
True, but they may not realize because they went for the free choice right away that there is a better choice.
Yeah.
All right. Meanwhile, we've got a war brewing. We got shots fired in our secondary target. Netflix started this all off on Thursday when Reed Hastings posted finally some comments about the deal he had to make with Comcast for an interconnect. We've talked about it on the show before. It's not the same as paying for priority on the last mile. It's saying, okay, we will pay Comcast a little bit for a peering arrangement, the way we would with a CDN or transit. In other words, they're acting a tiny bit more like a big internet player rather than just a content company. What Reed Hastings posted essentially in his blog post was, please regulate peering connections, FCC. We shouldn't have to pay what we're paying for this. This should just happen. That's the way the internet's supposed to work. Jim Ciccone, Senior Executive Vice President of External and Legislative Affairs, in other words, AT&T's internal lobbyist, answered that post in his own blog post the next day on Friday, saying, look, Netflix is essentially asking all of our subscribers to pay for Netflix subscribers' bandwidth. He's like, it's great that we have people who use AT&T internet who want to get Netflix, and the cost of that extra traffic should be included in Netflix's price. You shouldn't make AT&T pay for it, because what that does is make all of our customers who don't use Netflix have to pay for it, because we have to pass along the cost in the subscription price. Dan Rayburn of streamingmedia.com says, well, it's not exactly that. It's the fact that Netflix really doesn't say what they mean by this somewhat vague, regulation of peering. Regulation of peering he doesn't think is necessary because Netflix currently has a choice. Unlike a consumer who probably only has one ISP to choose from, Netflix could choose to use multiple providers, and actually they do. There's other ways for their data to get into the Comcast network besides Comcast. Even still, they could connect to CDNs like Akamai or Edgecast or Limelight. They could have transit agreements again with people like Cogent and Level 3 who are already connected to ISPs to deliver the traffic. So the fact that Netflix did this deal with Comcast means that Netflix decided that was better for their business. And all of this Sturm und Drang about fees is basically people trying to get the government to weigh in on their side to help drive down the price for themselves.
Yeah, I'd hate to say it. You know, we were applauding the fact that that Netflix says, look, if you try to restrict our bandwidth, if you try to do your traffic shaping and offer benefits to your competing services to this, you know, we're going to come after you, and we've got the numbers, we got the people, and we can make this happen. And at the time, I really, you know, my ridiculous hope is that we can navigate through this net neutrality maze without having to use the hammer of law, because oftentimes when regulation comes in, when legislation comes in, it seems right at the time, and then 10 years later it seems laughable, and we find these perverse consequences. And I had hoped that that Netflix was going to go to bat, but it looks to me like basically Netflix did a back-of-the-envelope equation and figured out they could spend a crap ton less money, not have to fight a big battle, if they could just, you know, get the right folks to regulate and use the hammer of law, which bums me out. I'd say that's not how I want this solved. I want this solved because no business in their right mind would be caught touching that third rail of traffic shaping. But it looks like Netflix is taking the easier route, which is a bummer.
Now, Allison, here's what this dispute is all about. Like, it all comes down to ratios. AT&T says, and so does Verizon and Comcast and all of them, Netflix sends more traffic into our network than is sent out to Netflix. So in tradition of the internet, if you have an out of balance ratio, the partner that's sending in more traffic has to pay. That's kind of the way peering works. Netflix says, well, this isn't peering. We aren't sending traffic into you. Your customers are requesting it. And you say it's out of balance, but that's only because Netflix provides all of the data. We don't ask our customers to send any data up. And in this blog post, Reed Hastings suggests, what if we decided to change to a peer-to-peer model where our customers were sending just as much data up as they were requesting down? We don't think the ISPs are going to like that. Would you think that would be a solution to this problem? It's like, all right, we'll just make Netflix peer-to-peer.
Well, I get stuck a little bit further back than that. Excuse me, but doesn't Netflix already pay for bandwidth in order to be able to shove up as much as they do?
Well, yes and no. It's not like Netflix has a ISP like we do. But yes, Netflix pays Level 3. They pay Cogent. They pay Akamai in some cases. And they also do a program where they go into ISPs and say, hey, it's beneficial to you guys to save on bandwidth costs to host one of our servers inside of your network. So we'll provide that for you. Cablevision does that and gets great service. Google Fiber does that, gets great service. Comcast said, why should we pay the cost of hosting your server for free? That's not the way this is supposed to work. You're essentially trying to get out of paying for access to our customers. So what they decided to do is Netflix said, okay, well, we'll host a connection outside. So Netflix is essentially paying their ISP cost to go directly into Comcast instead of paying somebody like Level 3 or Cogent to transit their data, which is basically making it available to the entire internet.
This is making my head spin. A couple of people in the chat room have pointed out, don't we all pay for services we don't get today? If we have a Comcast subscription, aren't we paying for a lot of services that support people watching NFL or whatever else that I don't ever watch?
Right, but those are explicitly, there is a fee built into that explicitly is meant to go for that, and that's part of the contract that you're doing. When you sign up at Comcast, part of it is that you're going to throw $5, $10 to ESPN every single month. This is a case where you're already paying, and now it's a matter of there are choke points because there's arguments behind the scenes about who should be paying for the expense to make the traffic flow as sensible as possible during these choke points. Am I getting that right, Tom?
Yeah, but maybe I'm picked the wrong example. Let's say I don't watch Fox. Aren't I paying for Fox to exist and to be piped down to people?
On the TV side of things, not on the internet side of things. Right. On the internet side of things, the way it's supposedly working is you're paying for access to the internet, and that defrays the costs of the servers and connection points that your ISP has to keep in place.
I made a mistake. I thought Netflix was TV.
No, Netflix, well, it is TV, but it is TV over the internet. I think it's a fair point to make the distinction of Netflix doesn't come to you over your cable television. It comes to you over the internet.
Right. So if they did have it internal inside the Comcast network, for example, would that be internet TV or would it now be cable TV?
It depends on how you access it. Are you going to access it through your cable subscription or your internet subscription? And is it coming through the internet protocol that's delivered into your television, or is it delivered into an internet connected box, or is it coming into your cable provided box?
I mean, this is part of the reason, and keep in mind, you are right, Allison, to want to throw your hands up in the air and be all like, I don't understand any of this. This is all dumb. I just want to watch stuff. That's the way I believe all of the world feels. And
yes.
However, it's the nuts and bolts of these agreements, of these intractable arguments that are shaping that is why we can't just flip a switch and suddenly be watching what we want when we want on whatever device we want. And it's these ugly arguments behind the scenes that make big differences down the road in that regard. I don't know that we're going to solve this one right now, but I guess from here on out, we just get to watch like two angry neighbors bickering at each other.
Yeah.
Everyone.
The conclusion I came to on Daily Tech News Show is you've got a bunch of ISPs with virtual monopolies using their leverage on one side to try to drive up prices and get people on all sides to pay them. And on the other side, you've got a company like Netflix trying to use the goodwill of people to bring down those prices and change its business model. And honestly, neither side gives a damn about you.
Right.
You're the football being kicked back and forth.
That's a really good way to put it.
Brian, I think your analogy is perfect, except the houses are on either side of your house and you're trying to throw a party.
Sure. And also there's 5 pizzas that got delivered to the wrong neighborhood. And they don't have the gate code to get in. I'm just going to make it more complicated. And I got a flat
tire in the Uber cab.
That's right.
Wait,
but also the Uber doesn't even service this area because of labor agreements with the taxis. All right, look, let's take a moment and thank the folks who are bosses. You know we have a boss. We report to our bosses.
I think we have a bunch, man. We have like thousands of bosses.
Yeah, man. You thought it was bad having one boss. How about having 1,668 of them? But it's all worth it because they're the ones who are making this show possible. And we say this over and over and over again. Patreon.com/Cordkillers is what has made this show possible. There is no way that we could commit all the resources that we have to this show to make it as good and as often as we're able, and it's all because of you guys. We cannot thank you enough. Whether it's a 1 penny donor or a bajillion dollar donor, we thank you guys so very much.
Yeah, thank you. You are getting the show that you made happen. You can claim to have produced this show.
Yeah,
good job.
Uncompromised.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Time for some signals intelligence, wouldn't you say?
I would, yes.
All right. Signals intelligence is the section of our show that's all about streaming services or the way you access your television. And we've danced around this topic a little bit. Cable television is one of those services, right? And Allison very, very astutely pointed out, like, hey, whether it gets by IP or whether it's coming through the wire into my living room. We got some research out. Actually, we got similar research from Leichtman Research Group and SNL Kagan. They're both analysts that report on the industry. They said basically the same numbers. Leichtman said Comcast and Time Warner Cable combined to lose 1.1 million TV subscribers in 2013. That is 825,000 lost to Time Warner Cable, by the way, of those 1.1 million lost. Comcast, however, added 1.3 million broadband subscribers. Time Warner Cable added broadband subscribers as well, 211,000. As a whole, cable companies lost subscribers in 2013. As a whole, satellite television and telephone companies like AT&T and Verizon principally gained television subscribers in the U.S. for their television services. So combined, when you add all those numbers up, the entire market still lost 104,521 subscribers compared to adding 175,000 total subscribers in 2012. The largest cable and telecom providers gained 2.6 million internet subscribers in 2013.
So
now, a side point here, you may see Comcast gained things. This was confusing Allison and myself. Comcast gained 43,000 television subscribers in the fourth quarter, but overall they still lost for 2013. But they did make a little rally at the end. And as I said, the SNL Kagan numbers are about the same. They say a total drop of 251,000 television subscribers in 2013. So pretty close.
Yeah, so now there's a bunch of different ways you could spin this. First of all, like the headline, of course, you see is Comcast at Time Warner lost 1.1 million video customers. It's not as dire as it looks. Almost certainly a bunch of those were lost to AT&T and Verizon, who showed, the millions of gained. There was one article on TV predictions that proclaimed that the cord-killing movement is dead because they pointed out that the headlines all say lost 2 million people, 2 million customers, and yet he points out, again, rightly, that they gained. However, overall, this is a market that you should still has seen incredible growth overall this time, and we are seeing definite hard losses. People freak out. People dump stocks because they go flat. This one is losing customers at this moment. So I would respectfully disagree with the assertion that the cord-killing movement is dead. What about you, Allison?
Well, I thought this was interesting, especially since I did go from Time Warner Cable. I've been with them for, 15 years, whatever, as long as they've existed, and went over to Verizon. But I didn't really cut the cord. I just replaced it with a faster one. And I mostly did it for the internet access to be able to get the killer fast speeds of Fios. So when I look at the numbers, if you look at the bottom line at 104,000 out of 94.5 million, that's like 0.1% change. I see what you're saying, Brian, that it's it's not growing, so maybe that's a bad thing, but it sure doesn't look like a violent movement really getting traction, except if you look from the point of view of the cable companies themselves.
Well, and we've said this repeatedly, that it's not going to be an earthquake. It's not going to happen overnight. The Nielsen numbers continue to reaffirm that by and large, almost all the television being watched is watched live, and it's appointment viewing. It's not even DVR'd or whatever. But what we are banking on at Cordkillers is that the number of progressive options will continue. That market will grow so much that at some point you're going to see cable look increasingly silly to more and more people.
I think what's going on here is a battle of the headline writers, right? Lots of companies, analysts, lots of media outlets have a vested interest in being early and right about the cord cutting movement. So they look at this evidence to go, okay, we think cord cutting is on the rise. We see people subscribing to Netflix and Hulu in greater amounts. We see cable company numbers falling. This is what you would expect to see at the beginning of this movement. And so we can write our headline, cord cutting movement gains steam. Other analysts, other industries have a vested interest maybe to serve their audience in the media to say this cord cutting movement is a bunch of hype. And let me just say that even though they dropped 251,000 subscribers last year as a whole, the fact that satellite and telcos gained just shows that the market is moving around. Well, okay. A couple of years ago, Brian, do you remember on Frame Rate, we reported on the first subscriber drops of cable companies, not as a whole, not the market as a whole, but just individual companies.
But
and the excuse then was, well, it's just the economy. The market as a whole is still going up. Now the market as a whole is going down. Well, the excuse is that's just a momentary blip. Can't even blame the economy anymore.
Yeah, well, and plus also, there's a clear trend. In the beginning, we were talking about the slowing down of new cable subscriptions.
Right.
Then it was the flattening of cable subscriptions. And now it's like now we're looking at definite losses. And we've said before, we think that in many ways, there's the cable companies, I think, have no illusions that they're going to be able to hold on to what they're doing. I think they are trying to figure out their new role as content aggregators and of distribution. I think that they are, when we see stories like the Apple and Comcast in talks, they're not talking to Apple because they just love their iPods. They're talking to Apple because they understand they have a real problem with the way they've been doing it. If they want to maintain their relevance, they need to give a superior experience. Because right now, the biggest problem is that the best experience, the highest quality of experience, if you want to watch what you want when you want, is to pirate it. And that's not tenable. That's not where they want to be in the long run.
I just had an epiphany. I figured it out. I know what these numbers mean. People are moving from cable to satellite because they're watching most of what they want to watch through their internet access. And that's why they need faster, better internet access to be able to watch all that content that way. They still can't quite give up the cable or, the stuff that cable and satellite and phone companies give you, but they need a faster internet access in order to watch the stuff they really want to watch.
So why would they go to satellite then? Because it's cheaper?
Oh, well, satellite, that's noise. AT&T Uverse and Fios.
Well, keep in mind also, like some of the satellite, Dish is doing really outrageous stuff that I'm deeply in love with.
Well, and Dish only gained 1,000 subscribers, so you could almost call that flat.
God, that's a bummer. It's such a bummer. Like I've seen a bunch of ads for Dish World with the which I believe is the virtual provider, right? Sort of like Aereo with Dish. Slinging.
Well, they have a
content.
Slingbox thing built in if you get the Joey hopper. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, I think I am, but all right, whatever.
But if you look at the AT&T Uverse and Fios numbers combined, if I'm reading this right, it's like 1.5 million increase.
Again, that is offset by the over 2 million decrease by the others. The industry as a whole has fewer cable subscribers now than they did a year ago, which is big
Allison,
news.
let me see if this sounds familiar to you. I'm a handset maker called Nokia, and I've got the dominant position in the marketplace, and I've got millions of sales. And this upstart computer company starts selling phones, and I laugh at them because they barely took any of my market share, and I'm still got millions. And look at all of these other phones, and some of my phones actually increased in sales this year. So obviously, I have nothing to worry about from this iPhone that has come along because my N70 product is the best thing ever made. And a slow decline of market share eventually leads to the Nokia we have today, which is off the charts sometime from the Gartner Group and is not even thought of in any way as a competitor to Apple. Think about that slow decline and then look at these numbers and tell me they don't remind you a little bit of those market share numbers back in 2007, 2008.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I guess if you didn't see the Verizon, Fios, and AT&T Uverse numbers going up so dramatically, almost as much as those going down, maybe that would be the decline of non-internet TV stuff. But since those are there, it seems like people are still attached more than I would have thought.
Well, they gained, I don't know how dramatic that really is. Like if you compare it to the normal gains that were happening in the early part of the 2000s, you're talking here about 10% gains. Not for AT&T anyway. You're talking about 10% gains. It's actually 5%. It looks like more for Verizon, Fios.
No, it's about 10.
Nothing to sneeze at, but those are probably people fleeing from the multi-channel video providers, thinking I want better service and maybe taking advantage of some really cheap offers. The overall number I think is where it makes more sense because those kinds of situations are averaged out. And you actually still see an overall loss, which you never saw. It was unthinkable that in the United States of America, cable subscriptions overall, counting all providers, would ever go down in a year.
Which is exactly what we're seeing. Yes, there are winners and losers at any given time, but overall, we'll say AT&T is a winner this year in the overall positive number of subscribers, but the industry as a whole is a loser this year, and that's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
And I will say, Allison, you're right. These numbers don't say and therefore cord cutting is winning. It doesn't say that either. All it says is this industry is at a shaky point.
Yeah, I'll give you that. I am intrigued, though, watching the young people as the bellwether there. Is our son is in his very early 20s, and he was just all, internet, and he was all cool and hip and everything. And then he turned around and got Fios. So he went to TV after he wasn't on TV. Not
That's
that being a single data point, obviously.
yeah, sure. And cord nevers are the big worry, right? Those folks who never get television. So that data point will be very heartening to the Verizon folks for sure. All right, let's talk a little bit about the gear we use to access this television. We call this segment Gear Up because all the gear is up on top of your tube television. No, it's not. Hey, the Roku remote app for iOS. If you have a Roku box, you can update your remote app for iOS, Android, or Kindle because you can now do universal search across channels. Also, Roku got the Yahoo Screen app. That's the app that was already on Apple TV. Lets you watch clips from The Daily Show, Saturday Night Live's old episodes, and some of the Yahoo originals.
Yeah, those apps, it's fascinating to watch as what were individual stations virtualize their presence into an app format. Because essentially what Yahoo's doing is just, I don't want to say force feeding you. Like part of the reason we liked channels was because each channel has its own brand. And it just sort of like, hey, here's something that you might like. I'm just going to play it right now. Now I'm going to play something else that I think you might like. And in a world where people don't want to be bothered to have to go out and find individual things, they kind of do want to be handed off material. I'm glad to see stuff like the Yahoo app build its brand and deliver that content like that.
By the way, I did use my Roku to do a universal search for Sherlock.
Did it work?
Did it work?
No.
No. Well, maybe Sherlock isn't available in any of the apps, but you'd think it would be, like at least on Amazon or something, right?
You would think. No.
Sure, the world just does not want you to watch Sherlock. Actually, no. You know what? This is why people always say, like, Tom, you keep saying you want this one service that you put in a name of something and it tells you where you can get it, and that exists on Roku /Microsoft /Kindle /whatever my favorite thing is. None of them seem to always work. They work somewhat well, but they're always missing something. I'm talking about an independent service that's like, I'm not tied into a box or a service. I'm just going to tell you, like, I guess I'm talking about a search engine.
All right, look, as long as we're talking about gear, can we take a brief moment and talk about the gear that powers this show, that makes our entire shenanigan possible from our friends over at Doghouse Systems? This is we got 2 of these Armor Series PCs, desktop PCs. They're the best computers I've ever used for sure. We have one doing the live switching, another doing the live streaming, and Doghouse is working on making you guys your very own set-top box so you can watch what you want, when you want, whenever you want it. Just go ahead and search for Cordkillers Doghouse, and immediately, actually, if you type in Doghouse Systems Google+, the second community that shows up is the Cordkillers one. That's where everyone's talking about, in your dream set-top box, what would you like to see? What software do you want it to run? What kind of remote do you want it to come with? And we can have our very own Cordkiller set-top box. And that's all thanks to our friends over at Doghouse Systems. By the way, if you want Doghouse to know that we were a good investment, why don't you make sure to use promo code Cordkillers next time you buy something from Doghouse. We'll get a little bit of credit, and you will get to double your memory free. You'll remember twice as much.
It is time to put all of us under surveillance. Actually, we're just going to talk about things that are coming up that you want to watch.
So we're already under surveillance, man.
Yeah. Hey, did you see the new trailer for X-Men Days of Future Past that came out today?
I did
one that
not.
Came out a while ago.
Can we see a few seconds of it? Just show it. Just click on something. Let's see what we were able to see here. There we go. Yes, it's a green band.
So
My
many
favorite band,
battles
the
waged
Green
over
Band.
the years. And yet, none of them like this. Are we destined to destroy each other? Or can we change who we are and unite? Is the future truly set?
Oh, it's going to go on in that vein.
It's just more of that forever.
Well, it shows the past, it shows the future, and it shows the present. Well, I guess the present is the future in this movie, but I'm a little confused on that. But I looked at this, and unlike the previous trailer, I said, I must see this movie. I'm excited to see this movie.
That's awesome. Dude, I can't wait. That whole storyline is spoken of with such reverence. I was never much of an X-Men fan, but I enjoy getting to experience it from the movie side of things, because I'll give it a couple hours for sure.
Allison, X-Men movies inspire you? You into them at all?
Absolutely. Can't wait. That looked like a lot of fun to me. I like the going back in time and wondering why Patrick Stewart's in a wheelchair as a young man.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, we're going to see some robots. We're going to see an alternate future that must be prevented. And Jennifer Lawrence is going to trip on her dress.
And then we get to say
turn into a
dystopia
dress
a lot.
because she's Mystique. I thought this trailer blew me away, so it got me really excited. X-Men Days of Future Past. Buy it in the movie draft. Let's go to the front lines now, shall we?
Yeah.
Frontlines.
Frontlines. All right, this is Allison. Are you prepared for Frontlines? We take 60 seconds to both introduce and chat about very quickly 6 different news items.
Okay, I'm ready.
All right. I'll start the first one. War is over. Viacom and Google have ended their $1 billion copyright lawsuit that's been going on for like 300 years. Apparently, no money even changed hands, but they did say through legally gritted teeth that they look forward to working with each other.
Now, and actually, I don't even think that's bogus. I think that at some point, I think what YouTube is and what it represents has fundamentally changed since 2007 when the lawsuit was first filed. And at some point, Viacom's like, this is the dumbest thing ever. Why are we not partnering and distributing? Why are we trying to get a suit? And I wouldn't be surprised if they just said, hey, you want to stop? Because we kind of want to stop. And they're like, yeah, let's both stop.
I, for one, am just really glad that the lawyers made a lot of money.
Dude, that ain't nothing. Google said they spent $100 million on legal fees, and that's what they said in 2010. You figure if Viacom spent the same, they set fire to $350 million over this nonsense.
I hope this means Google can make Content ID work like normally on YouTube instead of all freak out Viacom like.
Not super harsh. Hey man, PlayStation Network announced its first original show based on the comic Powers, Christian Walker and Deanna Pilgrim, as they solve a crime related to superhuman individuals. The show had a failed FX pilot in 2011. This is like a Brian Bendis thing, right?
Oh, is it a Brian Bendis thing? I missed that.
Let me double check that. I thought that's what I read on the
Allison,
comic book.
do you own a PS4?
No, I do not.
Will you buy a PlayStation in order to watch television shows?
No, I think I got enough stuff going on with a Roku and a Chromecast and a Mac Mini and a Apple TV.
This is the thing, though, because it's so hard to get the licenses for television shows on a service. You're going to see more companies getting into originals. We know Microsoft's doing it.
Will I be able to search for Sherlock on a PS4?
You can. I'm not guaranteeing it'll show up, but you can search for it.
Good.
Absolutely. All right, on to the next one. The Chromecast launched Wednesday in Canada and 10 European countries: Germany, Denmark, France, Spain, Finland, Italy, Norway, the Netherlands, Sweden, and Britain. The app compatibility varies by country. Canada, for instance, gets YouTube and Netflix. Britain gets the BBC, and in France, you can use it with France TV Plus and SFR TV.
I am so thrilled with my Chromecast, and I'm so surprised at how often I use it, especially, it's the only downside to it is that the kids tend to be more comfortable in the Xbox environment for Netflix because the addition of needing to have a second device, whatever, is a bit of a pain in the ass. But man, I swear their tagline should be Chromecast ... Or, you could get a case for your iPhone. Like it's amazing how cheap that thing is. Have you played with one, Allison?
Yeah, we've got one. We've been out of the country for about a month, so I've kind of forgotten about it. And I read a couple things while I was gone saying that a bunch of new apps came out for it. Looked like that'd be some fun to play with.
Yeah. Well, especially now that they've opened it up for hacking. They say everyone go hack crazy.
Oh, I didn't know that. Awesome.
Yeah, FX television sequel to the Coen Brothers film, Fargo, will be available on Netflix on the Netherlands the day after it airs on TV in the U.S. So I guess if we were a Danish program, we would say, hey, there's an exclusive. But then we would roll our eyes. We're like, but it's just on TV in the United States.
If we were a Danish program, we would say, I need to move to the Netherlands because I'm in Denmark.
Oh, that's right. Sorry. Whatever. If we're Danish, what do you call people from Denmark?
Dutch.
Danes? Dutch. Whatever.
Obviously.
Let's say I open up all the angry emails, all the angry Dutch emails. They're throwing their wooden shoes and their tulips at me.
Well, this
smoking
is the other
their
part
dope.
of that, like the new frontier is Netflix going around going, okay, we can't get that one in the U.S., but let's grab it for another market. I mean, the lines continue to blur.
Yeah, well, and it starts. I guess that's what is appealing to me is that we are seeing the reversal of what we saw with Lilyhammer in this.
I'm just so
Yeah,
excited. There's a sequel to Fargo. I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, it's coming to
and it's
FX.
actually produced by the Coen brothers. So this is
And
like
it's gonna
this
have
is
Martin Freeman in it.
yeah.
Valve released an hour and 15 documentary about 3 professional gamers from around the world competing for $1 million prize in the very first Dota 2 international tournament. You can watch it on YouTube for free or download it from iTunes or obviously from Steam, which Valve owns. Interesting way of distributing a documentary, and interesting to have a company making a documentary about their own product being used in esports.
You know, and and it's not really Valve's product. Wait, did Valve
Dota
make
2 is,
Dota?
yeah.
Oh, okay, all right. Then I stand corrected. But I first ran across that. I just loaded up Steam and out popped this thing like, "Hey, we made a documentary. You should watch it." I loved the non-traditional distribution on there, and I wish I cared more about the game or I would have watched it. But I'm sure it's very good.
Allison, any thoughts? 8 seconds.
Video games. Hey, man, Disney and Lucasfilm, but I repeat myself. Confirmed Star Wars Episode 7 will start shooting at Pinewood Studios near London in May. It'll be set 30 years after the events of Episode 6, Return of the Jedi. It will, quote, star a trio of new young leads, along with some very familiar faces. The press release added, and it's going to be released at cinemas on 18 December 2015. Yes, 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 all the yeses. Thank you for, we could just all pretend that the prequels were like fanfic. Can we just decide that's what they were?
All I really care about Star Wars is that they not have a lot of stupid love scenes. One of my big pet peeves is these great action movies that then throw a love scene in the middle, and it just, I hate that. I don't go to an action movie to see a love scene. You know,
No,
you can have one quick little embrace.
So the whole Empire Strikes Back, Han and Leia together, you're anti that?
Yeah, I mean, the best movie I ever saw. No,
I love
I'm
you.
gonna
I
ask for
know.
extension
I
on
mean,
this.
what? You're not down with that? The awkward about to kiss and C-3PO showing up?
Oh, shoot
crazy.
me now. No, I got to have my extension on this, right? I get one.
No, extend it.
So
Go ahead.
there was a one of the Fire Down Below was what's the actor's name? One of the big action heroes. Anyway, he's got his girlfriend. He shoves her into a closet, and then he goes off, and this whole mountain explodes and everything. He comes out. I mean, the house is completely destroyed. Everything's just a big mess. He runs up to her. He hugs her, and he goes, pat, pat on her back, and walks away. That's how much love scene I want in an action film. That's it.
Man, all right.
Jean-Claude Van Damme. That's it.
Just him. You just want him to show up and do a cameo, play his bongos like in the GoDaddy ad,
I mean,
and then get the hell
that
out.
was the love scene he did.
Okay.
I
mind
have
a
to
love
say
story.
that
That's
the
okay,
fact
but
that
I don't
they're
want it in the
actually
middle of my
shooting
action
this, I know intellectually it was supposed to happen, but it's kind of crazy to think like, wow, they actually have got a script.
Yeah,
and they're
you know
gonna
what's
shoot it.
it's
in
fu-
May.
Justin pointed out that our friend, J.J. Abrams designed this deck of cards that we now have at scamstuff.com. And all right, I'm out of time. That's fine. You can shut off. But he we were talking to JB of Theory 11, who worked with J.J. Abrams on the deck of cards. He's like, yeah, I was talking to J.J., but he was out on location scouting. And then just the moment when you hear those words, like, oh yeah, that's an inconvenient thing, and then you remember why he's location scouting, and you're like,
Oh,
holy
gee, I wonder
crap.
what movies go. Oh my God.
It's happening. Ron Paul gif.
All right, let's check our radar to see what is on it.
Yeah.
This segment is called On Our Radar. Get that, how that works?
Yeah.
These are things that are coming soon. And soon this will be replaced by the movie draft, Brian, because the Night Attack movie draft happens tomorrow night.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, have you figured out we're doing a couple of changes for the movie draft? And number one, as soon as we're done here, I'm going to get on the phone with Justin and we're going to plan our strategy together, because for the first time ever, we're doing teams. We've got a Night Attack team. We've got we had a Sword and Laser team, but Veronica couldn't make it. Have you picked your co-pilot?
It is now Team DTNS. My producer from Daily Tech News Show, Jenny Josephson, has gallantly agreed to use her Hollywood-based address and husband to give me a little
Oh my gosh, you and your inside rocket sauce. That ain't fair. So we also we're going to have a formerly spill.com team. Now it's New Beginnings with Corey Coleman as a team unto himself. We have a Slash Film team. We have Team Frog Pants and Team God Moneybags, which is Father Robert and Will Harris. and we're all going to be playing together. T2 has set up this whole thing where we could bid electronically so that we definitely know who got their bid in first using a special IRC bot, and it should be a lot of fun. It's going to be amazing.
All right. By the way, on our radar, Noah comes out this week, and the first episode of Being Human US Season 4 today.
Yeah.
I saw a preview for Noah, and I swear it was the movie Gladiator, wasn't it? It looked exactly like it.
Except instead of killing the animals, they put them on an ark. That's the twist.
Well, when the boat showed up, I figured out it was a Gladiator. But other than that, all the characters looked exactly the same.
All right, let's put this up on screen. What has been on our screens is what on screen is about. Because we've been taking our VHS tapes and putting them in, watching our favorite
That's
shows.
how you watch what you want when you want, is because nobody wants their VHS tapes. You just pick those up. And
Yeah,
then
you
watch
take
what
anything you want.
Hey man, I watched Archer and Cosmos. I figure we'll talk about those during the when it's spoiler in time.
I believe it is gentlemanly and just generally polite to let our guests go first. So, Allison, what have you been watching?
Well, we were trapped in a hotel in the rain in Bora Bora, so we watched 5 Will Smith movies while we were there. So that was it. But seriously, Cosmos, I know you guys, I think you've already talked about it, but we just got to watch it, and we were a little bit worried that it was going to be a little bit all about him. But I thought it came off really well. I do have to complain about it was on Fox Sports West or something like that, and they had this giant white logo in the upper right hand corner that was driving me nuts. The audio levels were all up and down, and then the cuts to commercial were just super harsh. Did you guys see that?
Yeah, I didn't watch actually it on Fox Sports West. No.
Yeah, I watched it on Hulu, and I did notice. Well, I don't know. We'll save it for when it's spoiler time.
Yeah,
okay.
But other than the Will Smith movies, anything else that you've been watching?
Well, last night we watched 2 episodes of Hacking the System on Nat Geo.
I am so happy that
Brian.
you reminded me. I was totally going to forget. I found out a couple days ago they're going to rerun for a 3rd time both episodes of Hacking the System. So if you're watching live, please tune in. Have your relatives, anyone who you think would like the show, have them tune in to watch both episodes tomorrow night on the 25th at 7 p.m. Central Time. 7 Eastern Time. Thank you. Did you enjoy the show?
Yeah, I really did. And I found myself thinking about a lot of different things we'd done. Like one of the things you talk about in there is where you hide your key. Well, we had to hide a key on a barbecue, and then the barbecue got old and creepy, and we bought a new one. So we put the barbecue on the curb. So somebody took it away.
So somebody has a key to your house?
Needless to say, we have rekeyed our house. We have brand new locks. So I felt a little better about that. But yeah, no, it was really good. And I enjoyed, I caught myself telling people about things I learned, like the spark plug thing. That was really fun. I definitely
I'm so thrilled to hear you say that, because that was one of my stated goals when I presented this idea. Was I said, I want it to be the kind of information that's so sticky that once you learn it, it changes the way you see the world. Like, you can't see a spark plug without thinking about that little tidbit now, you know?
Yeah, definitely. I had one other thing I wanted to tell you guys about. A couple of weeks ago, I've lost track of time, having been gone, but you guys were talking about how annoying seeing telephone numbers that say 555 on them are.
Yeah, it totally takes you out of the experience.
Yeah, well, it turns out Robert Lloyd Lewis is a friend of ours. He's the producer of Dexter, and he has figured out how to buy dead phone numbers. So he sells or rents those phone numbers out to movies now. So if you watched Dexter, you'll notice that none of the phone numbers in that were fake. They were real numbers. Or in Breaking Bad, when you saw like Better Call Saul and it had a phone number there, it did not say 555. It's because they rented it from him.
You know, I noticed that trend that you were seeing 555 less and less, and I suspected behind the scenes there was somebody doing that, or some kind of, like long-term purchase, like this will forever be a dead number. I'm glad to hear I was right. That's awesome.
Yeah, and he even rents it out where if you pay him a little more, you can have an answer phone. So, or answering machine, what do you call them these days? A voice recording. So when you called the Better Call Saul number, you could get like press 1 to talk to Saul, press 2 to talk to somebody else, and you could hear different funny things. It was pretty cool.
Oh, that's fantastic. A great promotion for the show to get people like trying to call the numbers and everything.
Yeah, exactly.
Like you said, Archer, Cosmos, we're going to talk about those in It's Spoilering Time. We've changed it.
Time. It's the one. Well, there are many tines on this fork we call
we forked
Cordkillers.
the show.
But the show's finally totally forked, and and so now this particular Tyne is where it's spoilering.
Yeah, Stratford upon Tyne? No, wait, Newcastle upon Tyne? Anyway, I watched the Grand Budapest Hotel, the latest Wes Anderson film, and I have to say that if you don't like Wes Anderson films, don't go see it. Otherwise, go see it, because it is as if Wes Anderson decided, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to make a really good Wes Anderson film, and then he succeeded at it.
Well, specifically, like, this is his first mystery that he's ever done, right?
Yeah, and that's sort of irrelevant. Like, Justin Robert Young and I were texting back and forth about it and getting all philosophical about, like, oh, it's sort of a commentary on the pre-war situation, and that's all in there. But it hits all the notes. You know, it's got the absurd characterizations, the overdone stylistic notes, the weird juxtaposition of some kind of period dialogue with anachronistic, cursing thrown in, and cameos galore.
Awesome, man. Shall we take some dispatches from the front?
It's about time.
Yeah. First one comes from Alan. Says, Brian and Tom, I could not disagree with you more about Game of Thrones, especially Brian. I've read the books, read most of them multiple times. I tried to watch the series and failed. Wasn't that I decided to stop so much as once I got past the first 4 episodes, the next time I sat down to watch something I'd recorded, I felt no pull to watch more Game of Thrones and instead watched something else. If the television show starts getting ahead of the books, I will be furious. I'll have to choose between watching the episodes of a show that didn't grab me in order to catch up and see the new material, or simply reading recaps online. Let's see. I'm sure I can't be the only one who feels this way, but from the Game of Thrones hype, you'd never know it. Keep cutting them cords, Alan. Alan, you might not be the only one that feels that way. You're the only one I've ever met or heard of who feels that way, though. So,
Allison, do you like Game of Thrones?
Would you believe I haven't seen Game of Thrones and I'm trying really hard not to? All
Alan,
I can ever
Allison.
think about with shows like that is how bad must these people smell? I mean, it's been like 7 years since they brush your teeth, right?
Oh my God, I have the same problem. Like, anytime I see any characters kissing, I'm just like, ooh, that can't smell good.
No, but they get used to it. It just kind of blends into the background.
That's the
And
way I was.
everybody I talk to says it's not fantasy. And I say, well, are there dragons? Well, yeah. Are there wizards? Well, yeah, but it's not fantasy. Really, it's not fantasy.
Well, that's, yeah, you need to watch it because it's really, really sincerely not fantasy. That's
Sure.
And I
Steve
think
really
Alan
wants
is
to see it. I'll probably
experiencing that human condition known as being in the minority, and it's okay. Just because
Steve
most
really
people love
wants it.
something and you don't, doesn't mean you're less of a person.
That's true.
But I don't want to be that guy that runs around saying, I never watched one episode of Star Trek,
Well, but
watch some Star
that's
Trek.
exactly who you just were, though, Allison. You just did a whole thing about how you literally just did exactly that, and then said you don't want to be that person.
You're that guy.
Maybe not forever.
It's okay. All right.
pressure's
John
really on.
emailed us and said, many times I think of a show that I would like to watch, but when I search for it on Fan TV, it is not available anywhere. 2 examples recently have been The Adventures of Briscoe County Jr. and Battle Plan. Is there anything that I can do to encourage creators to make things available? I have become more and more frustrated.
I mean, I thought the last part, my gut immediately was like, well, no, because they own it and you don't. But then I thought, well, really there is, because when you pay for services like Netflix, you give them leverage in order to secure the deals that'll make this content available. There's a lot of basically go legit. Don't fall to the temptation of piracy would be my answer.
Sure,
understand.
that is true. Although, John, honestly, I think the biggest thing you can do is wait. Maybe complain on internet forums. Not that will actually make it happen, but it might make you feel better.
I don't understand why this doesn't happen easily. In engineering and development of products, you want to spend as little amount of money and time on your non-recurring engineering expense, where you're trying to figure out what it is you're going to build and design it and figure it out. And then you want to keep a production run going as long as you can. They have this sunk expense of the actors and the producers and all that kind of stuff, and they just spit it out forever. And the whole long tail thing, I don't understand why this stuff isn't available. I mean, maybe there's only 4 people who want to see Adventures of Briscoe County, but why not give it to them if they'll pay for it?
Because of the engineering costs involved in the digitization and application of digital rights management. is another hump they have to go over. And it may not be nearly as big as the first sunk cost that you identified, but you actually just blew my mind there. I'm like, that's totally what stops these things from happening, is that exact engineering calculation.
Well, because at this point, the content itself is a sunk cost, and now you are looking at a new venture. Do I want to begin a new venture? The cost will be $10,000 to have it digitally remastered, another $15,000 in order to clear rights and blah, 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 blah. We think it'll make maybe $20,000. And they say, like, well, no, then I'm not going to do that.
Well, okay, that makes sense. But I'm thinking about there's a lot of stuff where they have digitized it, they have put it on the internet, and then it goes away. Those are the ones that really don't make sense to me.
Yeah, but even then, there's got to be some expense keeping them from doing it. Or, in the case of HBO makes available, they are very aware of the amount of piracy happening, but they derive a notoriety benefit. They derive a benefit of having the cachet of saying we're the number one most pirated thing in the whole world, and they're already set up with their sweet agreements with the cable companies, so there's no reason to keep on going.
Let's finish up with Donovan, who says, "Hey, killers and esteemed guests, what are your thoughts about the NCAA tournament being available almost entirely, a few cable games here and there, over the air or online? Using the NCAA March Madness Live to stream games on the go. By the way, nice app. Brian, I know how you feel about the sports ball, but would like everyone's thoughts on a very popular event with a lot of freedom to watch for all. Take it away, fellas. Thanks."
First of all, I'm not anti-sports. That's not for me. I think it's great. I think that's where we're going to see the biggest forms of innovation, as all of these leagues continue to realize that they're the one who have all the power, as essentially all of the sports networks realize that they can all pull an ESPN, and on ESPN even. If you're the NFL, then make your best stuff available on your own direct app and so on. I think it's great.
Most of these things require a authentication that you have a cable subscription. They didn't used to. There was a lot of NCAA stuff in the past that CBS would make available. In fact, when CBS owned all of it, they just made it all available without needing a subscription. But now that it's getting more popular, they're starting to require authentication more and more.
I think it's great that the NCAA has figured out how to make all the money and give none of it to the players.
They do give some to the players.
I mean, they spend it around the players.
Well, they give them free tuition. Yeah. Well, that is going to be it, I think. Oh, wait a minute. I do want to point out, Douglas Ross says Cosmos on Fox over the air is 720p, not 1080p. Ha.
Yeah,
He did say ha. But that was essentially what he was saying.
Is that true? No.
He
Fox,
says it was.
No Fox station. Well, it can't be 1080p because over the air, it's got to be either 1080i or 720p. That's the analog standard.
Yeah, he might be right. Might be over the air 720p, but still look damn good.
But
it still looked better
whatever
than
it
the
was, it looked good.
DirecTV version.
That's all I'm saying.
Just saying.
Yeah.
Killers.
Yeah. Killer, please.
Allison Sheridan, thank you so much for joining us.
Yay, this was a blast. I had a good time.
Oh, I'm glad you did. People should check out podfeet.com. Look for the NosillaCast. Look for all your good works there. Allison's a great host, really knowledgeable, has fun talking to folks. If you're into any kind of technology, you're probably going to get something out of it, especially Apple stuff. What do you got coming up? What can you let us know about?
We just went to the CSUN's Persons with Disabilities Expo, which is so much fun. The disabled get some pretty stinking cool hardware and software tech. So we did a bunch of interviews there. We've got the audio interviews, some of them up already, and we're about to do put the videos up as well. But they're a lot of really cool stuff. And we had a great interview with 2 blind and 1 visually impaired person talking about the enhancements in accessibility for 7.1 on iOS 7. And there's some really cool stuff if you're wearing bifocals like me and you need a little more accessibility. And then next week is Macworld, or this week is Macworld. So there'll be a whole lot of Macworld stuff after that.
Excellent. Go subscribe, people. PODFEET.com.
Wow, that was really
your
good.
Your new jingle.
I'll take that. Thanks for having me on, guys. This was fun.
Thanks, Allison. You can find us on the internet. Brian Brushwood, we are at cordkillers.com. Did you know that?
Yeah, and we're at Cordkillers on the Twitter, and you can email us, cordkillers@gmail.com, where I will read it, usually the last minute right before the show, and write you a very nice email saying, like, thanks for sending that over to us. But we love your questions. Some of the best content that we get, and certainly some of the best opening videos we get, came from the email or A lot of people are using the fill out the contact form at cordkillers.com. That's convenient too.
Yeah, good stuff. Thank you for watching, everybody. We'll see you either on It's Spoiler in Time or on next week's Cordkillers episode. Till then, keep the faith.
Wow.